Greetings, adventurers, and welcome to the Loot Goblin Marketplace. Backstories are powerful tools in TTRPGs. They create connections, drive personal arcs, and help everyone get invested in the story. But sometimes a player sees someone else's story and has critiques on it. While I've had cases where I was a bit confused by another player's backstory at the table, the truth is no one should really care that much unless it somehow breaks the lore of the campaign. Good roleplay thrives on what is happening here and now within the party, and the backstory is just another tool to keep the party going when things slow down narratively. I've had players give me a single sentence for a backstory and others send 20 pages. And I'll be honest, the backstory length has never really given away if there'll be an issue or not. However, whenever I see someone else start poking holes in or mocking another's backstory, they ended up being a menace. Today's treasure goes by the name The Tale of the Rogue That Tried to Steal Hearts, or The Problem Player Rogue Wants a Girlfriend.
Hey y'all, wow, I look good on this channel. My bad. Anyway, Dungeon Lunch Break just released the newest episode. If you didn't know, the guys and I kidnap Loot every so often and force him to pretend to like us and talk about some stuff. Sometimes this stuff is even fun to hear about. If you haven't had a chance yet, make sure to check out Dungeon Lunch Break. It's definitely content to consume that prominently features a goblin. Crap, I think Loot just saw me. Bye!
There's really no other way to title this story. Honestly, this is just as much of a funny story as it is a horror story. This took place in an online game I was invited to through a friend of mine. I was in a Discord server with a few other people. I only really knew the Dungeon Master of this story personally. Speaking of which, our cast is Pink, who's the Dungeon Master, an old friend from high school. Black is me, a human paladin. Blue is the problem player, a half-elf rogue. Red plays a high-elf monk. Green plays a lizard folk wizard. And White plays a halfling ranger. They're the rest of the party who are innocent in all this. I was the second person invited to the server by Pink, following Blue. I felt like we hit it off pretty well when we began to swap introductions, until I told her I was a guy. Apparently that detail was enough to make her rather distant from me. I don't think I was particularly rude, but the server is long gone, so maybe my memory is just failing me. However, Blue seemed to only want to converse directly with Pink and Red, who were both women. Either way, it wasn't long until the other three joined the server. We all began the session 0 of just tossing out ideas and trying to build character. We were going to start at level 3, and Red and Blue already knew what they wanted to play, a rogue and monk respectively. Eventually, I decided to play a paladin, a class I don't really play but always wanted to. I decided to pick the Oath of Conquest subclass. Blue did not approve. Blue: Conquest paladins are evil. Aren't we a good aligned party? Me: not necessarily. I mean, as long as I'm not invoking my oath on friends or the innocent, then I'm fine, right? Blue: douse the flame of hope, rule with an iron fist, and you're supposed to be good? Me: well, maybe I'm neutral? Blue: I'm just saying. Green: I'm playing a School of Necromancer wizard. Blue: what? That's evil too. Green: I mean, what's the difference between a cleric healing and a necromancer resurrecting? We're both defying nature, so... Me: and you're literally playing a rogue assassin. How are we automatically evil when your subclass is engineered just to murder people? This sort of debate went on for a while, long enough for Pink to tell all three of us to shut up. In that time, Red and White chose their subclasses. Red had decided to play a Way of Long Death monk, and got no response from Blue, other than being told that it was a good subclass. White decided to play a Drake Warden Ranger, and he told me and Green that Blue came after him as well, telling him that his class enslaving a dragon to work for him is wrong and unlawful and criminal. My guess is she didn't want Pink to tell her to stop again. I told him to tell the Dungeon Master, but he decided against it. We wrapped up session 0 with a few minor points of background, and Pink asked us to finish up our sheets in a week before session 1 started properly. I mentioned something about being a carpenter, initially taking my paladin oath to protect the carts of the trade routes to my town, since most carts either reached us in pieces or never at all due to the increase of banditry. What I would develop later would be how my character was married to a baroness, and how my paladin was hired as a mercenary to protect her carriage as she traveled from a small town to the country's capital in order to attend court. This small adventure of fighting tougher and tougher bandits that seemed hellbent on keeping her away before uncovering a conspiracy and learning that they were knights of another baron was how my character reached level 3 over the course of 5 years. And in year 5 they were married, and my character redid his oaths to her as his wedding vows. But my baroness NPC wife knew that I was still young and still had adventure calling out to me, so she insisted that I go out and see the world until I've had my fill. After all, now that we're married, they would be connected forever. She would remain loyal, and in turn, she expected the same from me. Pink really liked this, and behind the scenes, she wanted to try and incorporate it into the plot of her game. This NPC wouldn't be too important, but since the focus of the game was ridding the frontier towns of her setting of various monster armies before they reached the bigger cities, she thought that this Baroness, we'll call her Emerald for brevity's sake, would make a fine NPC for the character to interact with. After exchanging some details, the plan was set. Alright, that session 0 is pretty shaky, but it seems like you have a very healthy relationship with the DM here. I can see how this NPC handled wrongly could make it seem like they're favoring you, but sometimes, truth be told, as the Dungeon Master, if one player is being really helpful with setting up your story, you tend to lean on them early on, at least until you have figured out what everyone else's vibe is at the table. It is very funny to hear the assassin rogue saying everyone else is up to no good, even if they're one of those stereotype rogues that are like, oh, I only kill people who deserve it. I feel like that never really holds up when they get into the campaign and the first person that inconveniences them that is definitely innocent stands in their way, and then suddenly, you know, that sneak attack looks pretty good for them too. It seems like your party has more edgier characters than not, which is totally fine because you guys can be a band of misfits. One Baroness kind of saw you guys as better than you might appear, and now they're vouching for you, and you guys get to be the heroes on the front line that sometimes are questioned by the locals, but ultimately prove themselves as good people and the town will warm up to them. So I really like the dynamic in theory, but for some reason Blue does not. Let's see how Session 1 plays out. Session 1 properly went about how I expected it to. Red, Green, and White introduced their characters with little issue, save for Blue criticizing the latter too. Green's character being a wizard trying to pay off their school debts was too cliche, and White saying that he was assigned to his dragon companion when he joined his conclave of rangers was called out for bringing propaganda to D&D. His ranger was vaguely themed like a police officer, with his dragon companion being comparable to a canine. Red's character was just a wandering hermit, essentially Ryu from Street Fighter if he was a she. Blue did nothing but praise her, so much praise that it made her pretty uncomfortable, to the point that Pink had to tell her to stop so we could keep the game going. Meanwhile, Blue's character was a heavy romantic, speaking only in poetry verses which, to her credit, were rather clever. I'd even say it was a good character. Too bad she didn't say the same of mine. Blue, your character sounds too generic, and why is he wearing a circlet anyways? Me, oh well, since he wears gloves, wedding rings would kinda get in the way, so the circlet is for my marital status. Blue, he's married? Cue my rather flamboyant paladin gushing about his beautiful wife. She is the moon that inspires me. His sword cuts down foes in her name. He wears his scar with pride because it was earned protecting her. It was cheesy and over the top. While Red and White found it amusing, Blue simply responded in character. Blue, ah, I see, you are a tool. The woman who wed you, she must be a fool. I took it as a joke, but I had no idea of the evil intent behind those words. Sessions come and go a lot like this. Blue would cling to Red like glue and try to help her in every fight, and try to get downtime with her at almost every opportunity, while she ignored me and the others, except to sling snide remarks. It gets so bad that either Red would tell Blue to knock it off, or Pink would tell her to stop, or she'd kick her from the game. The threat never came to pass, but at least it kept Blue cordial for a time. Sadly, Red wasn't the only victim from her unwanted affection, because every female NPC from barmaids to priests would be hit with constant attempts at flirting, so unrelenting that you'd think she was playing a bard and not a rogue. Pink didn't typically mind this, or so she claimed, but having Blue jump at almost every woman and interrupt the game until somebody, usually Red, pulled her aside was getting out of hand, especially when they told her no and Blue didn't take it as an answer. Cue Session 5. Our characters are level 5, and we've killed a Goblin King and stopped his army from burning a town to the ground. Said town was my character's hometown, and we were summoned by the local Baroness so she could reward us personally. And naturally, it was the NPC wife of my character, Emerald. And like clockwork, Blue began to pour on her charm and try to woo her in her first speech. Emerald, I am flattered, but I'm afraid my hand belongs to someone else. Blue, someone else? Oh, what woe. Who would it be that has become your beau? Pink told her to make an investigation check. She did so and got a low roll. But Pink told her, you look closer upon her beautiful face. You notice that she's wearing a circlet. It looks familiar. If this was a cartoon, this would be where the record would scratch and it all would dawn on Blue in an instant. I followed up the best way I knew how. Having my character approach the Baroness, I took a knee, took her hand, and I kissed it. Me. Forgive my companion, my dear. Her heart is in the right place, for who could resist you? For you are the moon that inspires me. Emerald. And you are the sun that my world revolves around. Blue was furious. I can't hope to remember everything she said, but she went into an epic poem about how awful my character was. To paraphrase, he was a fool that told bad jokes and laughed at everything, even when he was close to dying. His chainmail was rusting and sword was as crude as his scarred face. He was no Prince Charming, but a fool in knight's clothing. How could anyone, let alone a beautiful maiden, love and marry a bastard like Black? Pink wasn't sure how to respond to this. I don't think anyone did, so it came down to me, and in-game I decided to laugh, even applaud Blue for her epic slamming. Pink would have Emerald awkwardly laugh and do the same. Out of character, I was less than gracious. Honestly, even though the character seems kind of clever, in practice, I feel like I get so sick of it so fast, especially if out of character they're like this. The fact that in character you handled it very well does show that you're trying to do the right thing, you're making peace with them, you're saying, hey, let's move along, I did my bit, you did your bit, the big twist happened, and now I'm just gonna go back to having an NPC wife that isn't the focus of the campaign. But of course, Blue isn't gonna let this slide. For some reason or another, Blue has decided that their rogue is in fact the most irresistible bard in the land. They're even talking in rhymes like a bard probably should and not a rogue, and is now being kinda outright predatory to both NPCs and player characters alike. So this is where I kinda get the indication that there is something going on out of game here. There's a clear bias that is bleeding into their character. When it comes to how good a character can be in game, truthfully, it's all about who pilots it. You can have the most boring one-dimensional character ever, and if the timing's right and you always know what to say, people are gonna love that character. But if you're playing a really complex character that has all these clever inner workings with the party, but you're just a dick all the time, yeah, no amount of story beats is gonna make up for you being insufferable at the game table. So while the author here handled it great in-game, we'll see how the out-of-game conflict happens. Me. Maybe if your character had a charisma higher than 8, she'd be married too. This man just called her maidenless. Tactless, yes. I'd even call myself an asshole for that. Blue certainly thought so at least, because she drew her short swords. She dual wields them, and dashed right for me. It was an attack roll, and thankfully she rolled low, and my AC was decent, so I was able to avoid getting stabbed. I took my greatsword and tore into Blue. I stopped before killing her, and just let her drop onto the floor with 0 HP. But I did play up the crazed look in my character's eyes as he towered over Blue, and how he is ready to plunge his sword into her, only stopping myself since my wife wouldn't approve of me just killing her in cold blood. Blue. Why didn't any of you guys help me? He almost killed me. White. I mean, both in and out of character, you've been really rude to us. You were kind of asking for it. Blue. Shut up. Red. No, you shut up. White's right. You've been nothing but a bitch to them and a total creep to me. If Black didn't kick your ass, I would've. The only reason my character didn't break yours' nose was because Pink kept insisting that she'd get you to calm down. And then silence. And then Blue left the server. The mood was dead. Everyone was so awkward and quiet that nobody dared to say anything. But before anyone could type anything, Pink sent us a message. Pink, I'm sorry, but I think we need to just stop this campaign. I can't really say I blame Pink. Red formed a new server and gathered White, Green, and I, and we were able to swap notes. White, Green, and I apparently got off pretty easy. Red, however, was getting constant messages from Blue. Both in and out of character, she was trying to force a romance between their characters. At first, it was begging, but then it escalated into demanding. Red was spending so much time with Blue that she even confided her backstory into her. They were always together, and she even saved her from enemies. In reality, Blue was latching onto Red like an emotional leech and was unloading all her emotional baggage onto her. They were always together because Blue didn't understand that Red just wanted Blue to leave her alone for just a minute. No, Blue never saved her. At best, she stole her kills, and at worst, she tried to keep her out of the fight. After that, and with the game ending, we all just kinda went our separate ways and left the server. I tried to find it again, but I think it was deleted, so no clue to whatever happened to Red, what was Pink and Blue's deal, or anything else. TLDR, I gave my character an NPC wife. Problem player is whiny, and that is the final straw that kills the campaign. Now seeing the entire context of the story, I now feel like it's pretty fair to say that Blue was a big fan of women, but really hated just about every male character in this story, and wouldn't even think of hitting on a male NPC. In fact, they were disgusted with the idea of any male character in this campaign being able to be married, apparently. I guess early on there was the hint that they only seemed to hate the male players and their character designs, even though debatably the female characters in the party were also playing their fair share of slightly evil, kind of edgy characters. With so few players though, there isn't a large sample size. They did seem to have a cop-hating thing going on where they thought the paladin and the ranger resembled them too much, even though you can take a Drake Warden and an Oath of Conquest paladin very different directions, mattering on how your character made. Also, anyone using the word copaganda unironically, I don't know if I'd want someone like that at the table. Like, dude, he just wanted to play a ranger that has a dragon. Rangers don't have much. Just let him have a dragon, man. You know, I did think there was a possibility that the Baroness was being used as favoritism for the author here, and maybe that caused some resentment, but it really seemed like that wasn't the case, and the first time that she shows up as a quest giver giving out a reward, she immediately hits on her, not knowing the context of this character, and blows up when they can't instantly date the Baroness. I'm sure there was many other members of nobility in the campaign that Pink would sit through you awkwardly hitting on, and the fact that this one was off limits was unacceptable to them and caused a complete meltdown leading into active PvP is just kinda sad. I wish they could have just kicked Blue out because Red was uncomfortable, and I think that's a testament to the fact that if one person at the table is having a very hard time and you see other people occasionally have very loud outbursts, not liking that person as well, maybe there's a sign that stuff is going on in the background and you're not the only one getting constant negative feedback from this problem player. I really do think this campaign was salvageable, but I'm never gonna fault someone like Pink just saying, you know what, I don't look forward to this campaign anymore, maybe we should start a new one. The fact that it died out completely though is sad. There appears to be an update. Question: did you try to keep up with Pink? Answer: I tried, but it didn't go as well as I hoped. She started off apologizing on Blue's behalf. They had played D&D one-on-one, but she didn't think she'd act this way when in a group. She tried to invite me to a new campaign, and I almost agreed to it until she also said, Blue's ready to give me another chance. I was confused. The conversation was essentially me. She's ready to give me another chance? Pink: I mean, you did fight her and almost kill her character. Me: after she attacked me, was I supposed to just not fight back and let her kill me? Pink: I mean, I don't know, but you didn't have to go that far. Me: Pink: I wasn't the problem here, Blue was. And I'd say you were a bit of a problem too, because it sounds like you're just enabling her. You only stepped in after Red said something or the game began to drag on. And then I was blocked. In hindsight, I probably let my temper get the better of me. I've got her email, so I could have tried to message her there, but after being blocked on Discord, I thought the message was pretty clear that she didn't want to talk to me. This is really a sad situation because you've lost a high school friend over D&D by a person who they met online and randomly did one-on-one D&D sessions with. Everyone else at the table seemed to pretty much agree that Blue was the problem. I don't know what Blue is telling Pink over and over again that has convinced them that everyone else at the table was the problem. Sadly, I do think that your statement that Pink is enabling Blue here is really spot on, because honestly, I don't know what else it is. So yeah, good on you for not giving Blue another chance. I know I wouldn't have. I'd love to hear everyone's comments below. Are we being too harsh on Blue, or was the author here kind of spot on? And now, thanks to the update, I'm just curious what you guys think of Pink's decision as well. If you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe to help support the channel. I'm always grateful when you guys come back to watch my videos. I hope to see you in the next video. Farewell for now. Hey guys, one last thing. I forgot to mention that I am opening a second channel that goes by the name Loot Goblin Nomicon. It's going to be linked in the description, and there's going to be a couple videos out right now that you can watch. This is a channel where I'm going to cover all things fantasy tropes. I'm going to be talking about your favorite races, your favorite classes, probably even your favorite monsters. I love talking all things fantasy, and this is a chance to just cover stuff that's outside the context of RPG horror stories. Because let's be honest, as fun as these stories are, sometimes you want something a little bit more fun and goofy instead of RPG horrors and literal shit shows. So make sure to check that out, because if it does well, I'm going to try to make it a weekly occurrence and then have one video on the main channel and then one video on that second channel. So make sure to check that out too. Alright guys, see ya.